Okay. All right. This is the Conservation Commission meeting on Wednesday, July 20th. It is now 7:06 p.m. and we're going to do a roll call. We have Pat Phillips, Peter Anderson, Carol Jordan, and Marilyn Schreiber with us tonight. First order.
And Kathy Demers, chair.
Everybody had a chance. And Kathy Demers, chair. Thank you, Carol. Has everybody to look the minutes over?
I move we accept the minutes of the June 15th meeting as presented.
Second.
Okay, Peter seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody
Aye.
wish to abstain? Approved. Okay, now at the moment I'm taking minutes, but I was wondering if there's anybody else tonight who would like to do that.
Sorry.
No.
What I'd like to ask
have to
is
go away
if
to
members could consider for our next meeting, thinking about, maybe doing the minutes, giving it a try. I'd be happy to look the minutes over afterward and just give you a little feedback, or, we can work together on that. You don't have to do it forever. If you want to give it a try for a month or two, or you just want to try it out once, it's not that difficult. I can send you a template. And it's pretty easy just to kind of add and subtract things to the minutes. So I'd like people to give it some thought for the next meeting, if you don't mind. I'd appreciate if we could find somebody who would be willing to do the minutes, at least occasionally, give me a little bit of a break. Okay. Moving on, present to speak. Do we have anybody here present to speak? Chris Demers, would you like to speak?
I wasn't sure if the chair was going to recognize me. Yeah, it's.
You want to
coming
state
the
your
Conservation Commission.
address?
Oh. I'm coming to the commission with a request. When we were repairing the bridges with the work crews a short while ago, I think we sort of, people remember this, so we, on Julia's Trail, where Julia's Trail kind of swings by the Fenton River, and there's a nice flat spot there. And we sort of talked a little bit about putting a bench there right where the river is. And I think the thought was to take the Adirondack chairs that are by the Taylor Pond overlook and putting them down on Julia's Trail. But on our way out, we noticed that the chairs were pretty well established there and people were actually enjoying them. So it didn't seem prudent to move them. As it sort of turns out, I built some Leopold benches for Vermont, and I put a bunch of them up there in various spots. And I've got a small two-person Leopold bench left over here in my house in Connecticut. And what I think I'd like to do is make a request that we put that Leopold bench by the river on Julia's Trail for people to sit and sort of just enjoy the river kind of babbling by. Wanted to see if the Conservation Commission would be okay with that.
That's great. Sounds great to me. I think it's really nice. And as somebody who often needs a bench to sit on, I'm all in favor of having them at interviews, intervals in the park, as long as it doesn't get out of hand. And as long as we know in advance that somebody's going to, instead of people just dropping benches from the sky, which has happened in the past.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good idea. That's where those Adirondacks were originally supposed to end up. But they only got as far as Taylor Pond, which as Chris says, and we've noticed they're serving well there, so they might as well stay there.
Since I happen to have one left over, you'll appreciate it, Peter. With recycled, reclaimed wood. It's a cedar seating and some southern yellow pine stand-ups for it. So it's a bit on the heavy side, but
Well,
Good. We can certainly, since we're not supposed to actually make any decisions during present to speak, we can move this on to properties management if that's all right with everybody. Okay, all right, great. Thanks, Chris.
sure.
All right,
Now I'll go do dishes.
okay, thanks.
Hey, guys.
Made some great burgers on the grill tonight, so
I'll just clean.
he's supporting the chair in many ways.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
Okay, moving on to old business, Talmadge Estate.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol, I popped over finances. Go for it.
Yeah, we ended up spending $1,463.16, leaving about an unexpended balance of $36.84. So we pretty much depleted our resources. So nobody can say, oh, why should we give them money? They're not using it. Well, we used it this year for sure. So it's and there have been no expenditures to date in the new fiscal year that I'm aware of.
Okay, great. So we're going to start to work with our new figures, which is still 1,500. Is that correct for the year?
As far as I know, that's what we asked for, and I wasn't able to attend the Board of Finance meeting, so I don't know. I'm assuming that that was what's in the budget, and I haven't received it, until I get a report, the monthly report that would confirm that. But I see no reason why that would not be the shit. They should give us at least the same amount we have gotten in prior years. So
Great, thank you. Old business, Talmadge Estate property. The town held the closing on June 26th. So now the Talmadge Estate property is now part of town open space. So that's very exciting. As you know, we also received a letter stating that we had a grant award from the state. We still have to do a few things to be able to have them release the funding. One of the items that we need to do is clean up the old car and the tires that were noted on the property. They were in photos on the appraisal report. And we also had mentioned them in the grant application that our plan was to remove those items. So one of the things I'd like to suggest is I can contact Public Works and find out if they can give us some support with that, at least moving some of the metal out of there. It's not a lot of carnage, if you will. It's just a part of a very, very old truck, and most of it's rusted. There's nothing heavy, no engine, no differential, anything like that. It's
no
mostly,
place for Peter to sit. No
what's that?
place for Peter to sit.
No.
But I have a couple things, Kathy, as I was thinking about that. I was wondering if it would make sense to ask the selectmen to grant us management of authority of the new parcel as part of the Talmadge tract, as defined in the agreement of sale. And to just get that formality. And what was the other thing you just said?
About cleanup.
Yeah, the cleanup. I was wondering if it makes sense to postpone the cleanup till fall. Given the kind of weather we're having, I don't think there's any, it's urgent to do that. And perhaps it would be a lot easier to do that when it's not 95 in the shade. So, perhaps we don't need to rush to do that. I know the state wants that done, but, as you know, we have time to do compliance with a lot of those things, and
I would still put it in front of Public Works. I mean, if
oh
they
yeah,
have
absolutely.
if they have a spare afternoon, they can go out there and do that. Maybe we don't have to do much at all. Just apprise them of it, show them where it is, and let them figure out when they can do it.
You can go for it if you want, but I just thought, it might be.
Well, let them decide.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll talk to Public Works and find out, let them know what the items are that we need removed. And we may have to go out and gather the tires so they don't have to look all over the place, because I'm pretty sure I know where they are, and Jackie does too, when she did the site walk with me. So, those would be easy enough to just pull over and put with the old car. So there's not many tires. I think there's like maybe 4. So, okay. The other thing we need to think about for that property, and again, there's no rush with this, but would we want to think about doing, setting up a dedication for the property once we have some signage made? And we would be inviting the Talmadge family perhaps to that dedication? And when would you like to, when would people think that an appropriate time to do that would be?
I think I think we definitely should have a dedication, but there again, I don't think there's that much hurry. We need to change the sign for the existing tract, and the state is requiring as part of the grant that we have a separate sign for the new parcel, even though, well, and those are to be maintained separately on the assessor's records, even though we can refer to the whole parcel as the Talmadge tract. But the family has requested that it be the Daniel and Eleanor Talmadge tract. So both, and that language should appear on both signs. So there again, I think we need to do it, but I don't, frankly, I'm not going to be around much for the rest of the summer. And I think we should wait until fall and at the earliest. And yes, we certainly should acknowledge the family and invite them to be present at a dedication.
Okay. So when you're talking, we need to actually get the signs made. So we need to perhaps put together something that we could send out to either Signs of All Kinds and or another vendor, if you want to get some kind of quotes to see if there's any difference. But we'd have to put the verbiage together and kind of give them an idea of what we were looking for. I'm imagining the size of the sign would be the same as what's on the Talmadge property now. It's just, we were just changing the names.
Yeah.
On the sign.
You'll have to modify the wording a little bit. And kind of interesting because the Daniel Talmadge was I believe that was acquired when we're thanking DEP for the funding, and this time it's going to be DEEP. So it's the minor differences, but and the state was very clear that they want a separate signage on one on each parcel, and that will require a little bit of work. And I think I'm not going to be able to work on that kind of stuff basically till the rest of the summer. Actually,
Sure. Okay. And well, and if there's anybody else on the commission that would like to participate in working on the signage, don't hesitate to speak up, give it some thought. But like we're saying tonight, nothing has to be decided, but just getting some general ideas. I'm not so sure if we're working on the signage in the fall that we're going to be in a position to actually do a dedication in the fall. And so, by the time we would get the signs put up and a trail perhaps even put in, maybe we're looking at a dedication in the early spring.
Yeah.
And that's another option.
Yeah, you're right, because if we want to do the trail, that's a lot more work. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that needs to happen in the immediate future.
Just, throwing some items out, just, so that we know what we have to do, what's on our radar screen coming up. And, that's another thing, as you mentioned, Carol, we have to do as compliance is have the signage put on the property. So
I think we have 2 years to do the signage, and so it shouldn't be a problem for us to do it in a much shorter time frame than that.
Right. Okay. All right. Any other items about the Talmadge estate property that people want to just bring up? Okay. Let's see. Properties management, Fenton Ruby Park. Patty, I know that you had emailed me about a tree. You want to give a report?
Sure. So on Friday, last Friday, I saw a huge tree, more than multiple branches on Burma Road. You couldn't even walk on the road. You had to come off the road completely to get around it. So went back Sunday. I went late Friday, so I couldn't call Public Works. So I did call them on Tuesday, and they were great. He said, I'll go out there today. And 3 hours later, I was there. It was all cleaned up. It was cleared. It didn't even look like they did a beautiful job cleaning it up. You couldn't even tell it was there. So I called them back to thank them. So
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
And was that Troy that you spoke to? Do you know who was?
I
it
don't know. Whoever answered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for calling them back and thanking them. And I certainly can do something on an official note too. Did you mention that you're from the Conservation Commission?
I didn't.
Right, I'll just put something, a little more official, an email to them from the commission, just thanking them. But
Okay.
thank you for taking care of that. That was great.
Oh, you're welcome.
Where approximately was the tree?
It was between the parking lot, and it was even before the first entrance to the White Trail.
Wow.
Oh,
And did it come from the hillside or was it from the lower part of the road?
The lower side.
Huh. It wasn't like a beaver chew, was it?
No, it looked like a not healthy tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could see the break was just a true break.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Chris Demers had put forward the idea of putting a bench in the park on Julia's Trail, close to not right on the river, but along that trail. And how do people feel about that? Does anybody have any concerns about that or?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I make a motion to approve putting a bench by the Fenton River on Julia's Trail.
Okay,
I agree.
okay, here a second, Patty. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Okay, so moved. Carol, I think in terms of the pollinator garden, do you have anything to add or?
Yeah, they put up the sign. They used a company called Fast Signs in Manchester, and we're very pleased with them. And they were very cooperative about waiving their normal payment requirements to accommodate us, as since we were paying for it through the Girl Scouts and all of that. We did go out yesterday and take a look. Some things are flourishing. There are a lot of things that are being eaten. So I don't know whether the girls were supposed to be maintaining it. I think part of it might be lack of adequate watering, but I think most of it is something is eating stuff out there. So I don't know whether I do know that some of the plants that they put in this year were annuals to fill in the garden until the perennials that they planted it can become well established. But it might be a good thing to be in touch with Connie and Hannah and just mention that. But they did put a small sign, a 12 by 18 sign about the pollinator gardens, and the round sign that indicates that the garden is on the pollinator pathway. But I think maybe it could use a little maintenance in terms of doing something about the plants that have taken a hit, and so to speak. So.
But it appears that they're watering, okay, they're at least watering the ones that are there.
They were supposed to be, my understanding was that the girls were supposed to be on a rotating basis watering, which of course means they have to take water from the pond, which is, so I don't know, exactly how things have been going, but they've been very good to work. I have found them good to work with, and also the sign company was very, very good. And they've got the sign company and the Tri-County greenhouses in particular have been very accommodating and understanding of things.
If you wanted to put up some blueberry netting, short term to keep deer and bunnies away from whatever, I have a brand new bag of that. But one would have to erect some kind of a system to hold it up,
Yeah.
just to give the plants a chance to get their legs underneath them.
Yeah, and I think some of the some of the plants are labeled, but I'm not sure that all of them are. So, and I know they have, I'm sure that Connie has a diagram of what they planted where.
Yeah.
But you know, somebody, I think maybe we might suggest that they take a look there and see if they can, you know, but then of course they'd have to, you know, find plants from somewhere, and we pretty much fully expended the monies that we had allotted for them. So
Small
we're-
pieces of Irish Spring soap also deter.
Yeah.
They don't, deer and rabbits don't like the smell of that. And that's
Yeah,
a
well-
pretty cheap fix.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is Dave and I were pulling into the park, we saw a bunny. So that may be part of it, but I think the deer have gotten some of the stuff too. Some of it was pretty tough and woody looking, so, you know.
It's a free feast, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been lucky. Most of the deer and fawns we've seen keep going through our yard and into the woods, because this has been a good year for browse in the woods. So I think that's, you know, kind of, then perhaps this is a little more exposed since it's in the air, in the lawn area, makes it a little bit easier for easier access to the nibblers. So.
Well, you know, we'll follow up with them, and obviously we're in a new funding year, so if maybe they need a little more support financially, they could always come back. So the next item I'd like to talk about is I was approached by a UConn student who contacted me via email. He's a student in the Department of Natural Resources. They've been doing some research study on beaver lodges. And they have already been kind of coming to the park and looking at what the beavers have been constructing at the park. And what they'd like to do in the next step is they'd like to fly a drone over one of the beaver lodges that's closest to the parking area. And the reason that they want to do this is part of their study is looking at if they can interpret from the size of the lodge regarding the size of the area that the beaver is, kind of the habitat for the beaver. So they're looking at studying that. And he said if they did it, they would come out early in the morning. It would be on a weekday from, 8:30 to 9 o'clock. It would be, a quick overfly of the pond, and that would be all. And that would just be once. And so I told him I would bring this to the commission for, your discussion.
Anything we can do to help UConn students gather their degree and do research at the same time is, if it needs to be done, people need to open up their properties or whatever you want to, the environment that they control so that people can study it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea.
I wonder, we seem to be a rather popular place for beaver projects. Did we get any feedback from the second graders from Stafford schools that came for the day to have their picnic in the park and observe the beavers, Kathy?
Well, actually, and maybe I forgot to mention this at the last meeting, they ended up canceling because of the weather. And so,
Okay.
yeah, they never had the porta potty delivered, and they, had to cancel because of the weather, but they may try to, do it in the future, and she would contact us again.
Yeah.
For permission.
I'm
So,
just curious.
yeah, I felt bad because we were all very excited about knowing that, the whole class was going to be out there. So, okay, so does anybody else have any other comments about flying a drone over the pond? Any concerns?
Not for that purpose.
I don't think we need to take.
Yeah, I think if they do it at that time of day,
Yeah, it's
that we're less likely to have people observe it and say, oh, gee, maybe I'll come and fly my drone over the pond too. If they're doing, I like they're accommodating it to a time slot where it's less likely to be seen, and perhaps encourage other people to get the idea of doing the same.
Mhm. Okay. Yep. All right. So it looks like everybody's in agreement. It seems to be a good project idea. So I'll get back to that student and let him know. And I'll encourage him to send us a copy of their research report when it's done, so we can look at that. One of the things that did come to mind when we're talking about drones is whether or not, if we start to look at Fenton Ruby Park management plan, it might be something we might want to add in there, that flying of drones is prohibited without permission. Because that's just another thing that's kind of common these days, people using drones. So something to think about.
Yeah, and as usual, we're probably way behind in updating the park our own park management plan, not the Forester's park management plan, but our own plan, which we are supposed to review every 10 years, and sometime, and I'm not quite sure when we last did it. So
Yeah, I can-
last time it was 2016, so maybe we aren't so far.
Okay. And we're supposed to do it every 10 years or 5?
But 5, maybe, I don't know. Let me look. I know it's. What does it say? 5. Oh, okay, we're a year behind. Stand corrected. So it's
So
some point.
I'll
Yeah.
put that on the agenda for the winter, something we can do as a winter project, maybe. How's that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Another issue with Fenton Ruby Park is rec department had a phone call. Somebody left a message stating that he's in a butter to the park, and he was concerned because the vegetation was out of control, and he wanted to have the town come and cut all the vegetation down. So I contacted Bob Shabbat and I contacted the abutter, and we went out to take a look at his concerns. The abutter lives at 222 Moose Meadow Road. So it's the large house that abuts the back of the hayfield on the west side of the park, northwest side. So he was concerned because we have that hedgerow there. There's a stone wall that's along his boundary, and then there's vegetation that grows on both sides. And when Bob and I were out there, we noticed that the abutter had cut at least 5 trees on the Fenton Ruby Park side. So we told him that we would be bringing this concern back to the commission. I also sent a letter to Erica and to the land use office, just letting them know what we had found, along with some pictures, and asking for some feedback on, how we should proceed. Obviously, when Bob and I were out there, we tried to be very diplomatic and explain to the abutter that, that was not his property. He didn't have the right to be cutting trees. He said that he had had somebody cut them because he felt that they were unsafe and leaning over his property. The trees looked fairly healthy to us. They were, all the stems and the branches and stuff were still down on the ground, some on his side and some on our side. So
Kathy, is it the large house that's across from Barbara Austin's house?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm still waiting for some feedback from Erica regarding, what direction she wants us to take. We did ask the abutter not to do any further type of cutting. We also explained that the vegetation was there as a buffer, as a wildlife buffer, and that we would not be interested in removing that from our side, but certainly he could do whatever he wanted to on his side of the wall. So that's kind of where we left it. One other thing that was a little concerning is he did state that he asked us if he could buy the property, the hayfield property, and we explained that by deed, the town could not sell or lease it. And also he mentioned that he had been thinking about having somebody come and remove the stone wall along with all the vegetation along it. And we explained to him that the the wall was a boundary wall, and that, you know, he didn't own the whole wall, and that we would certainly take action if he attempted or did remove the wall. So I just wanted to let you know that's kind of hanging fire until I hear back from the selectman's office.
He had approached the town before, but he's apparently has difficulty understanding the word no.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. So one of the things we might want to do is continue to monitor that area from our side. When Bob and I met with him, we first walked on the hayfield side, and that's where we noticed the trees had been cut down on the very left-hand corner of the boundary. When we went to his side, and, you know, when we met with him on his side and we were talking to him, we were talking up more by where it would have been the other area. And so we started to walk along the stone wall because we were aware of what had happened on the other side. And when we got to that point, he pretty much stopped walking. So he didn't really want us to go that far, but we already were aware of what was on the other side. So when we approached it, we did ask him, you know, what had gone on there. And that's when he said he was concerned about safety. And, you know, we explained he couldn't be cutting trees on somebody else's property. So anyway, okay, that's it on Fenton Ruby, unless anybody has any other.
Yeah, I just wonder in that case, since he seems rather persistent in totally disregarding the rights of the town in protecting their own property, that if this continues and he keeps doing this, that perhaps the town might think about saying that any further encroachment might warrant some more strenuous response on our part, because it said he's rather persistent in thinking that he gets to do whatever he wants. So.
Okay, good suggestion. Just writing this down as a note. Okay, thanks, Carol. Anybody else have any other comments about that, or?
And we, of course, anything we'd have to consult with the selectmen, because they would be the ones, they would have to be involved if we were to, you know, at least warn him or, you know, whatever, and I don't know what we can do. But it's really unfortunate that we have a neighbor that doesn't value the having the property next to them.
Is this the same gentleman who wanted to buy 10 acres from?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so going on to the Knowlton Preserve and Talmadge Track. Not much to report there. I haven't had any new news from stewards out there. We had talked about putting up signage there as well. And I did get a query from one of the Boy Scouts again. He's looking for an Eagle Scout project. And at this point, he hasn't done anything to commit to doing sign there. He was asking more questions about when we would need the sign completed by. And I explained to him that, I mean, we didn't have a special deadline, but we would hope to get something in before the ground froze this year. At least just to put the sign board up, you know, not that we would necessarily have the sign to attach to it, but at least the basic wooden framework. And that we also were looking for someone, if possible, to help us build that stone wall, because there's a pile of stones there from when they did the parking lot. So I'm not sure, you know, if he's going to be able to commit to it. Still kind of waiting to hear back from him.
Kathy, what about assisting with with blazing the trail on the new property?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, that would be another thing we could ask of him. He hasn't even committed to do, you know, any of the other work yet. And the emails going back and forth seem one-sided. He emails me and then I email him with a question and I don't get something back. So I'm not feeling really positive about this at the moment. he did mention that he's working this summer, so maybe he's just trying to, balance things better. I don't know.
And Blazing Trails does not really fall under in the category of something of the level of an Eagle project, if that's what it is. I mean, it could be a scout project that they want to undertake, but it's got nowhere near the complexity of what an Eagle Scout project is supposed to be.
Yeah, they're supposed to be organizing a group of people to participate and sometimes seeking funding for things that are required and that kind of thing. I know that, but it may or may not work out. Pete, do you know what the situation is still on the availability of the appropriate materials to put up a sign? And we still, we also need to talk about new trail mapping once we put the trail in, the new trail in. Oh, by the
I
way,
don't know.
Kathy,
So Carol, you're talking about like the marine plywood.
yeah, the
plywood.
green plywood, which for at least for a while was not available.
I haven't tried to buy any lately.
You're not going to put up any kind of marine accessories to your new house, Pete.
Not right away.
So, yeah.
Well, we can call Willard and find out if things have gotten a little better. I know from talking to Chris about some other things that he's done for wood projects, things are getting a little better in terms of getting, wood products, and the prices have come down somewhat.
And Kathy, I meant to bring on Monday night, I meant to bring you some copies of the Knowlton Talmadge brochures. I stopped, there were a few in both of the boxes the other day, but I'll try and leave a couple before we head out for Maine. But I will also leave some, I made 100 copies, so I'll leave some in the file, bottom drawer of the file. They're also in green, same as Fenton Ruby, but that's because I had green paper and was out of goldenrod or whatever that color was that we were using. So.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Thanks for doing that. Anything else people want to add or about Knowlton Preserve, Talmadge Track? Okay. One other thing that does come to mind is the forage management plan. Now that we have the new Talmadge Track, new Talmadge Estate property, we had put in a request for $2,800 from ARPA funds to pay for a new forest management plan. And that was based on a quote that I received from Conwood back in March. I did check with the finance office, and the ARPA funds, as we had discussed last time, have definitely been appropriated, and they are available for us to use at this point. And I checked with Peter Lesmeris from Conwood, and they're still, offering to do this for the $2,800. And they could start, the field work at least at any point in time. So I guess I'd like to make a recommendation, or I'd like to make a motion that the Conservation Commission recommend that the town of Wellington contract with Conwood Foresters to provide a forest stewardship and wildlife management plan using ARPA fund number 26 in the amount of $2,800 for the Knowlton, Talmadge, and Talmadge Estate properties.
You're making that motion, Kathy?
I am, yeah.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I believe that the current management plan expires in, I think it was like October of 22. Does that sound right, Kath?
I know that the plan was it was expiring in 2022.
And I thought it was toward the end. So this is it's really just a continuation of the plan plus a management plan on the newly acquired parcel as well.
Right. Yep. Yep. And I've already provided some information to Mr. Lesmeris about the survey that was done for the new property. So he has that in hand. So I think it's just a matter of us, moving forward and letting the selectmen know. I can send the contract to Erica, and, she can assign it, and then they will make sure that the money is taken out of the ARPA fund numbers 26 for that. we have to give them an $800 deposit to start, then $1,000 once the first draft of the management plan is provided to us, and then another $1,000 once we get the final. So those would be the steps. Okay, any other questions on that? So going back to our motion, all in favor? Say aye.
I-
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thank you, guys. Okay. All right, let's see, town development. Planning and Zoning Commission. We had talked at our last meeting. You had authorized me as a chair to provide a letter of regarding our comments regarding the zone change for a parcel on River Road to a strategic development zone. So that would allow a warehouse to be built on that property. And the public hearing for that was supposed to be on June 21st. But it ended up becoming postponed until last night. So I had provided our letter to Planning and Zoning Commission. I emailed that to the Land Use Department. And last night I did attend the meeting with copies as well. There were probably, I'm going to guess, 150 people in Hall School. And people, as they came in, signed up to speak. I was kind of on the bottom of the list of the first page, so I never got a chance to speak. They will be continuing the public hearing, and it will be on August 16th. And the chairperson, Walter Parcells, states that, you know, he's going to make sure that everybody who wants to be heard will be heard, including people that also could be on the Zoom, because it is a hybrid meeting. So I'll definitely plan to attend on the 16th. I'm not sure if I'll be in person or if I'll attend via Zoom, but I will try to make a few comments just to highlight some points of our letter. As far as I know, there's nothing else in planning and zoning that's going on that would be something we would need to be involved or comment on. Inland wetlands. Go ahead, Carol. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's one thing David mentioned, that there are 3 new houses going in on Hancock Road. And I believe Bob had said that was one development in which we are getting fee in lieu of tax of open space. So, and I believe what should be happening is, as the COs are issued on those properties, then that the money from that's realized should be going into the open space fund. So it's something to sort of keep an eye on, and as the construction progresses on those properties, and it's on a lot by lot basis as the development is complete on each lot. So that's just, just wanted to be alert to that.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll try to put in an email to Mike D'Amato and just let him know that we're, kind of paying attention to that. Thanks. And inland wetlands, I don't think has been meeting as regularly. I don't think there's been anything on their radar screen. The one thing I did request from the zoning agent was information about the water quality plan that Love's was supposed to be doing on a quarterly basis since construction started. And I had asked several months ago, and they had not provided any reports to the town up to that point. I finally did receive something from Mike D'Amato, was dated from Love's the end of June. And basically it was kind of a summary of some of the water quality testing that they'd done since last August, but it had not been done on a quarterly basis. So I will send a note to inland wetlands and just tell them, there's that we hope they will follow up with that, because this was part of their conditions of approval that they should be doing on a quarterly basis. And I just want to let them know that we're concerned about that. I mean, I feel concerned because it's the only way that we know that during construction, whether there's changes in the water temperature in Roaring Brook and also the wetlands, as well as any kind of turbidity that might be caused by soil erosion. And if nobody's monitoring and reporting on that, then the town doesn't have a good feel for, any of those things happening. Any?
Not surprising.
Well, that's the problem sometimes with all these conditions that we put on, or the town puts on approval for special permits, is then somebody's got to keep an eye on making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to in all of those conditions. And, I know that was one of our big concerns as a commission, was water quality issues, particularly during construction, and also because of the septic design, which was very close to the wetlands. And I know Inland Wetlands was very, very concerned about it as well. And that's why they had some conditions for approval as well. So let's see. Collaborative organizations. I haven't really, had any information from any of the organizations. I don't know if anybody else has had anything recently they want to share. Regional pollinator pathway initiatives. I have been getting some emails from the regional group, and they've been working on growing some plants that they're going to be giving away free. They're being grown at the Spring Hill Manor farm that UConn runs. And they were looking for people to help pot up the seedlings and then kind of care for them through the rest of the summer. So if anybody's interested, I can get more information to you. And they would be plants that you could plant yourself if you're interested, or you could give them away to someone who might use them as part of their own pollinator pathway.
Kathy, would that be information to pass on to Connie and Hannah?
Yeah, they're aware.
Yeah, they were aware of it. Good.
Yeah,
'cause
they're
that might be an option for them to be able to fill some of the holes in the garden at Fenton Ruby.
absolutely, yeah, and they're on the email list, Carol, that goes around for the pollinator pathway, the regional. Yeah. Okay. I wanted just to make note that the Daily Award for 2022 was given to Peter Anderson this year at a gathering yesterday, and that's for many reasons. One of them in particular is his service to the Conservation Commission for 27 years and 7 months, which is pretty remarkable. Also the work that he's done for Joshua's Trust, as far as especially the Shannon Roche Preserve, and his work in putting in trail systems and also being a steward there. So Peter, we thank you for your service. And,
Yes.
For those of you who weren't present, one of the gifts he was given by Chris was a model bridge to scale, so that Peter can continue building bridges. So we certainly value everything that Pete's done.
Is he going to get it?
Yeah.
he's been playing.
With stringers and a couple of piers to put them on, and then all the little planks, a couple of dozen little planks to plank it with. And,
Just no screws.
yeah.
Pete, you've
People
made
say I've got a
Wellington,
lot of people say I've got a lot of loose ones of those.
Pete, you've made Wellington a better place to be, and I'm sure that Cumberland is going to be reaping your benefits as well.
Yeah.
Well, the
Once
folks on the
they
commission-
build your house.
Yeah, right. Once you get it done, yeah. And it'll be, yours truly humbly thanks the commission for admitting me to the pantheon of the awardees. That was very unexpected and very nice. The whole shindig was very unexpected, but thank you very much. Yeah, and as was noted the other night by somebody or two or three people. Well, first, thanks to Kathy for organizing that event and doing all the work and doing the presentations. But everybody at that gathering the other night were all contributors to Willington in many different ways. Every person there, in some way, on boards, commissions, and volunteer organizations, and on top of that, just plain being good citizens in a lot of other ways too. So, thank you very much. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure.
It was a fun gathering. It was nice to see a lot of people we haven't seen in a while that were involved with Ben Ruby Park as well as past commissioners. And I'd say just about everybody knew each other, which was nice. A lot of people haven't seen one another because of COVID. So this was great.
And I think some people who'd served in the past were very impressed at what the current commission during the time of Pete's service has accomplished, from the natural resource inventory to the property purchases to, inventorying open space and mapping it and all of those things and somebody was heard to say that they thought the Conservation Commission was the best commission in town. And I added, and we have the most fun. I think that's true. It really is.
We never did manage to get that helicopter, though, that we wanted to get a couple of years ago to do, to park management with, but oh well.
Maybe in the future, Marilyn, right?
Right.
A few failures.
All right. Let's see, a couple other things under other. Carol, I know that you had mentioned to me that you were wondering if there might be some people on the commission that would be interested in maybe shadowing you to learn some of the responsibilities you've had through the years on the commission. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, at some point, the couple of things that I've been doing is to update the records on open space. We keep a file of every property that we own and every easement that's held, and include in that information about the conditions of the easement and maps, so that's readily available. And also work with Mike Cipriano at CROG to update the map and mapping. The other thing that I've been doing a lot of is the financial things, submitting bills, and also, I have a little bit better background because of my service as town treasurer, and that's come in very handy in a few cases, understanding how that works. And it's not terribly onerous. A lot of it can be done in person. The other thing is copying and copying the brochures for the parks, and making sure that so they're available to restock the supplies at the trailheads and that kind of thing, which is very easy. And that's something that they can be copied. We copy them on the town's copier, and they have a nice copier that's really fast and does two-sided copying. And it's the kind of thing where that someone, all you need is access to the building on a Monday evening in order to be able to do those things, and help in that way. So they're, it's the kind of, I think it's time to start passing the torch to, for a few of these things. And if anybody's interested in doing anything of that kind, I'd be happy to work with them, but not until that summer's over.
Thanks, Carol. So if people want to give some thought to that, and if there's some part of those responsibilities that you might want to learn more about, and shadow Carol sometime, you could work something out with her. It would be helpful if we start to have a little bit of a succession plan. Also thinking about bringing in some new members, because we want this commission to continue to, reach out and make some new roads in town, so to speak, for conservation. So it's up to us. If you think of people that you know, especially young people maybe that might have an interest in the outdoors or conservation, it'd be great to get some alternates at least on the commission, add some alternates. So think about that. All right, and under new business, under communications, I received an email from Mrs. Laura Pettix. She owns the property at 74 Burma Road, which is the property that is on the on the eastern side of the park, where Burma Road goes up toward Ashford, and then it kind of takes a left-hand jog toward Lustig Road. Some of you might remember that she had approached the town, I'm not even sure, was it 2 years ago maybe, or a year and a half, when her husband had passed. She has a 7-acre property up there that is has an old camp on it and a pond. And she had originally, through her father, approached the town through the commission and asking if we would be interested in buying it to add on to the park. And at that time, I know that Peter had communicated back to her that we really weren't in any position to be considering it because we were working on the Talmadge Estate property and a grant at that point. So, but she's reconnected with the town and she's asking if the town might be interested. She's also concerned that it would be very difficult for her to put the property on the road, and Lustig Road right now are not passable. So for a realtor to try to even show the property would be very difficult. So what I did is I responded to her and let her know that I would converse with the commission, but also converse with the town selectmen, since we need to understand better about the road, about Burma Road, and if that would be something that the town could possibly be required to try to improve so that she could access that property. What's the status of the road? Has it been officially unmaintained or abandoned? So again, I have an email into Erica about that, and hopefully she'll get back to me so we can respond better to Mrs. Pettix. I know when we've looked, we did take an opportunity back when she originally had sent a letter, Peter and Carol, and was it just the three of us?
3 of us, yeah.
Yes. We went out to the property and took a look at it. It's very overgrown. There's a lot of invasive plants that have kind of taken over by where the camp is. The camp is, they call it a shed on the assessor's card, but it's really more of an old camp and has a foundation. It would, take some work to tear that down and perhaps even fill it in. It looks like there could be a cellar hole of some kind there. And then there's the pond, which was a very nice pond, but it appeared to have an earthen dam. So that would be another thing that maybe a structural engineer would have to look at to see what kind of liability issues there could be for the town. So there'd be a lot to be considered in terms of whether or not the town might want to look into purchasing it. If the town would be impelled to have to repair the roads, would it be more expensive to have to repair and improve the roads so she could access it than buying the property? So there's a lot of factors there to look into.
Yeah, Kathy, do we know, I think we know for sure that Ashford has discontinued the road in from Lustig, and that was the primary access to this property, because it's a very short distance from Lustig Road down to where the property, the cottage, the cabin, whatever, camp, whatever you want to call it, was located. And they discontinued electrical access from Lustig down that road. But in order to provide access from the west end, from the Willington end, they would have to maintain the portion that we now have, that's essentially blocked off that goes up the hill and that is that is eroded really badly. And it's important to clarify the status, for the town to clarify the status of what access there could be. But it would be, I think, it's a pretty extensive stretch of road, isn't it, Pete? If you were to come in from the park end.
Yeah, it's a long ways. I'm not sure if it's half a mile, but it's a good quarter of a mile, 3/10 of a mile anyway, if not 4/10 up that hill. So yeah, I can't see how the town would be in any way made liable for maintaining a road to an undeveloped piece of property out there. And if it had to be made passable, it would cost way more, I would think, to make that road passable than it would be to buy and to purchase the property. But,
Unfortunately,
the last we knew, she was asking for, for an amount of money that, of approximately, well, the appraised value, not the assessed, appraised value, I think, on the property is about $70,000.
and unfortunately, she's not in a position financially to donate. She's looking to, because of her the sudden death of her husband, she's really not in a position. She's looking to realize something from the sale of the property, but it's going to be a very difficult project to market.
The liability of the dam is a big question, as Kathy mentioned that.
Yeah.
Somebody. So anyway, leave it to the selectmen, I guess.
I think that, they need to be involved in assessing that and weighing those factors, as well as, perhaps they can get Public Works involved and kind of, or an engineer or a town engineer to look at some things too. So I'll let you know.
That would be up to her to go and request access to the property, not us.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what was done. I know we were given permission to block off the road at the point just beyond the turnoff to the Dupilka property, and because of the problems with erosion down that hillside, and that's been blocked off for a number of years. But I'm not sure what formal steps were taken with regard to that section of the road. So
yeah, it was also because like you said, it was so eroded, we didn't want anybody with a vehicle going up there and getting stuck, but also ATVs coming and going from the Ashford side.
Yep.
An issue. Yeah.
And that's another issue. And I'm sure that Ashford really doesn't. The impression I get is they really want to discourage access through the Ashford side for similar reasons, and we should be in some ways grateful to Ashford for closing that, because it otherwise it provides people with access to the existing trails and roads that would be difficult for us to monitor.
Oh, God bless you. I don't know that Ashford has officially closed it. It just appears they're not maintaining it either, because there are no residents living on that part of their road. So,
and it's blocked by a large tree. Right?
and again, nobody cleaned the tree up, probably purposely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but but that, as Pete says, it's really her problem to find out to verify the status of the road from both ends, both from the Ashford and Willington end, and I'm very sorry for her situation, but I'm not sure if we were going to go out and look for a property that we really wanted to buy, I'm not sure this would be it.
The only thing I would say is that if there was someone who was going to buy the property and somehow, litigated with the town to make the town have to provide some kind of access so that they could build a camp or, something more permanent there. I don't know, then would all those roads would be opened up, so to speak, or a road would be opened up, which would increase potentially, ATV traffic within the park, which would not be a good thing. So, there's pros and cons of why you might want to add that onto the park and just not have to worry about that in the future. But there are a lot of concerns about, property and the cost. All right, and I don't have any other new business. Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Okay. So we can officially adjourn at 8:11. And our next meeting will be August 17th. And if there's nothing major on, our agenda, we could certainly consider canceling that meeting, but I'd be in touch with all of you beforehand and just see if there's any issues that you wanted to bring up.
I expect to be on a plane on August 17th. So
Okay.
I will not be present.
Well, you'll be Zooming, but you won't be able to Zoom it.
Right.
Okay, well, good to see y'all. And
Okay.
take good care and have a
Good
good.
luck with everything, Pete, and I hope you're satisfied. Your offers on the house continue to lead soon to a